if you show these things on TV like we do, and if you get back too far, it looks too much like a church, and people just don't even want to. They don't even give you time to hear what you got to say. It's like, oh, turn that off. That's a church thing, But if you get up close, it looks, I don't know, like you're talking to them. They stick around a little bit, and then they hear, They say, what did he say? Yeah, we'll see. Okay, we ready? Is this going? It's on. It's on. Oh, jeez. All right, here we go. Now, for those of you who are here for the first time for our Sunday morning service, we're talking about extraterrestrials. We'll sing Amazing Grace. We don't sing about a gospel ship, we sing about a spaceship. But anyhow. But I mean, and what we talked about last week, and what we have been talking about, is if you pray, I would assume that you're trying to make contact with something. And what is it you're trying to make contact with? Who is it that you're trying? You're trying to make contact with an otherworldly being. You're trying to make contact with an extraterrestrial. The point is, it's such an amazing thing. It's an absolute culture shock if you change the words of anything. If I say you're going to pray to God, that's okay. Your children like that, all the politicians like that. Everybody says it's wonderful. But if you, on the other hand, say you're going to contact E.T., then it becomes, whoa, stop, get out of here. But that's actually what this is all about. If there is such a thing as this, and we know what this is because it's let man make man in our image, then there would be contacting extraterrestrial. But the point here that I'm making to you is that it's a subject for discussion, and all things should be open to discussion. And as I have also told you in the previous weeks, that I never have and never will comment on anything concerning ET or extraterrestrials or UFOs other than as they're given to you in the Bible. So here's the Bible. And the Bible has told us over the last couple of weeks about spaceships that land on the earth, of people in white suits getting out of them, walking between the wheels and looking at the scorched earth, and then taking open, fire and roar coming out of this thing. Talks about one time of a guy named Elijah who had a pre-arranged time when he would be picked up and then disappeared up into the sky as this friend of his stood there watching until this thing went out of sight. So we've seen all of these things. And so then last week we went to the ultimate and we talked to you about making contact. Because you've been praying all of your life, and for the most part, people don't really know if their prayers are answered or not. If you pray and things go good, you say your prayer was answered. If you pray and things don't go good, you don't mention it, And so this is basically where we're at, so nobody really knows. So if we get rid of this word pray or prayer, and we start then moving to the word contact, and we talk about, I know it's difficult, but if you talk about extraterrestrials, those in an intelligent civilization that lives beyond the realm of our knowledge in this earth, and who have been trying to make contact with us, and we're going to make contact with them. So we eliminate the word God, we're replacing it with extraterrestrial. And you say, well, that's terrible. Well, it's not terrible, because who made up the word God? There is no such word as God. The word God is simply a play on the word good. That's all it is. And the word devil is simply evil with a D added onto it. So it's just a question of good versus evil. That's all it is. It has nothing to do with personality. So somebody in the English language took the word good, made up the word God, and it became a holy thing, see. But in the Bible, it doesn't talk about a God. It says, let us make man in our image, like us, see. So who is the creator? Who is making this creation? So we're abandoning religion, which is, the most wonderful thing that I could ever conceive you could do for yourself and for your children, is abandon religion and attempt at contact scientifically. Attempt at contact with the universe, with nature, with life, Sometimes I think where our problem comes from is in the basic part of our religious training where, Christianity, Judaism began. It said that the earth was the center of the universe, and that the sun and all the planets whirled around the earth. And then we found out, these people don't know what the heck they're talking about. But that's not true. And the way I describe what the Earth is, and as far as the universe is concerned, is sometimes when you go out today or tomorrow, whenever, go on your back porch or someplace, and look at a small speck of dust or a piece of sand over in the corner by the baseboard, with the two, and say, that's the Earth. And then look at your refrigerator and your house and your cars and everything, and the rest of the world is here. But this insignificant little piece of dust is the Earth. That's all you live on. You live on an insignificant little piece of dust. Nothing whirls around it. And basically what you have, or what you call extraterrestrials or God or angels, whatever you want to call it, are simply beings of an intelligence 6,000 years ahead of you who stop by these different places to see how you're doing. And I can tell you that the last report about what's going on here is not positive. These people are screwed up big time. Okay. So anyhow, we get to this point where we've created all of these parables and so forth, and let me just give you, let me just show you something. God, remember what we showed you in the book of Exodus? I was talking with this to Albert last night. Let me give you an idea of where I'm coming from, and we can go from there. And remember, this is just to open discussion. It is to make you think. And once you start thinking, you'll start finding. And once you start finding, you'll start making contact. And I will give you something today that, will get you through the front door. But let's talk about that later. Here you have a situation where you have the Ark of the Covenant. All right. Now, the Ark of the Covenant was given to Moses. It had to be placed in the Holy of Holies of the tabernacle. Okay, that's where. Well, what did we find out from our studies of Exodus? We found out that the tabernacle is actually the human brain. But we not only found that out, we documented it medically. Remember, everything that you have gotten here, everything that I've told you here, we've documented scientifically. I didn't tell you anything and say, well, you should believe this, or maybe you should think of this. I have given you documentation. I've given you scientific evidence. What did we find? We found in the tabernacle that there is an outer court, there is a curtain to separate it, and there is a Holy of Holies. And that's the way it was made. But then we found in the human brain there is an outer court called dura mater, which is hard mother. There is a curtain called arachnoid, which is the web. And there is an inner holy place called pia mater, which is tender mother. Now this is in your brain. It doesn't make any difference whether you believe it or not. You have one. You've got a dura mater, you've got an arachnoid, and you've got a pia mater in your brain. And that's the tabernacle. Now the interesting thing about this is that then you'll find out that the Ark of the Covenant has to be placed in the tabernacle. And remember they said the tabernacle was a pattern of something else, and we find out what that pattern is. So the Ark of the Covenant. Now, in looking at this, I've said to Albert yesterday, there can't be an Ark of the Covenant in your brain. But I'll tell you what there can be. There can be an arc. And an arc is an electrical impulse between 2 points. So what is the arc of the covenant? And everything in your brain is electricity. Little electrical signals. And so then when you start to understand these things, you start to open up a whole idea. I mean, this thing this becomes scientific psychology, and you get all excited because now look what you found out. Wow. What is an angel? An angel is actually an angle. And what is an archangel? What is an archangel? It is an angle of light and electrical energy that impacts the brain. Okay? So now this is where and why I come and I go around, and whenever they ask me, they don't ask me to go to speak to many places, as you can imagine, but when they do, and we go around, we start to talk about this stuff. It makes sense. Like, get nuclear fission. You're going to take a rib out of atom. You're going to take an electron out of an atom, and then you're going to say wow, I know how all life began by the splitting of the atom. What? It makes sense, doesn't it? And all of the things that we've shown you, we've documented scientifically. So then you think about this. You start through your meditation. It leads you into these types of things, and you look, what is an archangel? What is an ark of the covenant? And then you even find Noah's ark, and you realize what it is: a place of rest generated by this electromagnetic fields that come down from Orion and all of these places. So you find out that these things are real, they're scientific. So now we talk about making contact. We're not talking about making prayer anymore because we don't care about that. We're not you certainly want somebody to tell you go pray about it. Forget that stuff. You want to make a contact. You want to be part of this because the world, this earth, has not been treated properly. The children have been abused. The women have been degraded. The animals have been brutalized. The very earth itself, we have dropped bombs on one another. And the biggest culprit in the midst of all of this violence and degradation is religion. And so we don't want to be part. So now I don't want to have any more faith. I don't want to have any more religion. I want to make contact. I want to be part. I want to be part of the change. I want to be part of the revolution. I want to be part of this Aquarian thing where the very essence of what we call God or good is moving upon the earth to change things. How do I become a part? How do I make contact? See, most of the time that you don't make contact is because you don't know how to use the equipment that you own. You have the equipment. You have the computer. But you don't know how to use it. See? And the reason that you don't know how to use the equipment that you own is because all of your life you've gone to churches and been associated with religions who told you, don't touch the equipment. Don't touch it. Touch it. You'll go blind. You heard that? I mean, you just don't touch it. Basically, it's the same thing. Don't touch it. Things will happen. And then they create all of these things for you to work. Demons. You're going to get demons are going to come. They make up all of this stuff to scare the hell out of you. Because the reason, if you touch this, suddenly you're going to know, I have got Windows 95 Plus right between my ears, and I can communicate with you. Wow! It's all been put there. For me, by somebody called whatever, God, whoever you want to place this, and you hang out with a bunch of characters that don't touch it. And that's what you did. Now, let me give you the demonstration. Let's say, for instance, we have Al in the control room in there, and say we want to make contact with Kitaro. I don't even know of Kitaro. Most of you know Kitaro. We want to make contact with Kitaro. So what we have in there, we have an amplifier, which is the brain. We have like the tape player, which is what we call the mind. We have the tape, which is the pineal gland. And we have the cord, which is the power. Okay? So this would be the solar plexus power in you. And this would be the pineal gland in you. And you know what your mind is, and you know what your brain is. Okay? So we want to have Kitara. So now you go say, I want to pray to God. I want to express to God. I want to talk to God. I'm going to go into my quiet place and talk to God. You can come down here and go in that control room. It's very quiet in there. Nothing, say. So what I'd like you to do, Al, on our behalf, is I would like you to make contact with Kitaro. You have the pineal there marked Kitaro, haven't you not? You do. I'd like you to make contact with Kitaro. We all want to hear Kitaro. So I want you to provide us with Kitaro, but one thing. Now everybody listen. You listening? I want you to be very attentive to this. What I want you to do, Al, is do not touch the tape player. Okay? Okay. All right. Let's listen, folks. I got somebody who's walking out. Jesus. This guy is really freaky. I'm getting out of here. I didn't hear anything. Okay. We're going to touch the tape player. I'll tell you what, Al. What about using our brain? Let's, you know that with the amplifier in there, that would be you would have to switch that over to tape 1. Okay? Now, since you didn't touch the tape, I want you to touch the tape player. You got a tape player? touch the pineal. Put the pineal, put the tape in the tape player. We're allowing you to touch the tape player. Okay? All right, we got it all set. Okay, now, what I want you to do is do not switch this over to tape 1. Do not touch the amp. Okay? Now, you can touch the tape player, you can touch your mind, and you can touch the tape, but do not use your brain. Okay? All right, let's listen. Go ahead, play him. Okay. All right. Now, this is what I want you to do. After I get done with you, I want you to switch the brain, the amplifier, over to tape 1 like it should be. I want you to put the pineal gland in contact with the mind by putting it in the tape player. I want you to be willing, push the button so we get everything in sync. Only thing I want you to do, would you please lean over the back of that and pull the electric cord out of the side. Okay, all right. Now you got the tape player in there. You've got it switched over to number 1. You've got the tape player pushed on. Everything is in order. But, okay, let's listen as we hit the play button, okay? Okay. What happened? We're using our mind. We're using our brain. We know what switches to put in place, and we've got the tape. We got everything the way it is. We don't have any source of power. We don't have any energy. We don't have the source of power. The solar energy is not lifting itself up. There's no electricity going to the tape player. Okay. Now what I want you to do is switch the amplifier over to tape 1, put the tape, which is the pineal, in its proper place, activate the tape player, which is the mind, connect the source of the power, okay? So this way we've got all of these pieces working together, and let's see what happens. You see the difference? See? Okay. We made contact with Kitaro, didn't we? But we had to make sure, is that back on? We made contact with Kitaro, but we had to make sure that we knew what we were doing. We knew how to do it. We had to make sure that we were touching the tape player, which is the mind, that we activated the pineal, and that the power source was flowing. And once all of those things were connected, we were able to hear Kitaro. We were able to make contact. You have a computer. You have this magnificent electrical equipment located between your ears, right here. And yet you go in there, and people will go in and say, it's just like if you went in and sat where Al says, and I'm going to go in and play a tape. You didn't touch the player. You didn't know how. You didn't know what to do. And yet you think that you can just go in and sit alone somewhere and contact. And you're saying prayers, and they're not going anywhere because you haven't listened to how do you activate this equipment. Why don't you touch the damn tape player? Why are you afraid to touch it? Why haven't you touched it all of your life? Why have you let the tape? You're trying to play. You're trying to hear. You're trying to communicate. You have electrical equipment in your head built expressly so that you can communicate with one another and that you can communicate with the intelligence above this earth. You have that equipment given to you. Why haven't you used it? And I'll show you why you haven't used it. Go to page 597. And in page 597, in the book of Isaiah, and in Isaiah chapter 29, okay? Isaiah chapter 29. It says, if you read with me in the verse 13, for as much as this people draw near with their mouth, and with their lips do honor me, but they have removed their heart from me, and their fear towards me is taught by the precept of men. They scared the hell out of you. And you didn't know what you had. And so you listen to them tell you what a wretched sinner you are. You listen to them tell you what a nothing you are. You listen to them tell you only they could take care of you. Only they could solve your problems. And it says, they honor me with their mouth. They have never turned on the equipment. They've gone into the control room. They won't touch the amplifier. They won't touch the player. They don't have any electricity contact because they don't understand. Their fear toward me is taught by the precepts. Don't touch it. And so what do? Oh, you can sit here. You know what you can do? You can start imagining that you heard Kitaro. Yes, I can hear it. I saw it at the corner of my eye. I think I saw Kitaro. All these things we make up. And you saw nothing. And you heard nothing. And you experienced nothing. Because you never actually had the equipment working. You don't have any spiritual junk in your head. In here is electrical wiring. You have equipment in there. And you have to know how to use the equipment. Contacting God, contacting extraterrestrial, contacting an intelligence that is 6,000 years more intelligent than you, who are trying now because you've reached a point of evolution to show you things. You couldn't, people who lived 200 years ago couldn't discern about nuclear fission in Genesis, about the speed of light in Genesis, because they didn't know those things. But you have evolved to that point where you do, so now they can contact you. Now you and them can talk about these things because you've evolved to a point where you do understand them. You know about this. They didn't know the outer court, the inner court, the web, the curtain. They didn't know a couple hundred years ago. 50 years ago, medical science didn't know what the pineal gland was. But you know now. So they can talk to you now. You can talk to them. All of these things are given, but they're held there until you evolve to a point where you can understand them. You can discuss it. You can know how to use it. But let me tell you what religion does. Go to page 596. You're almost there. Isaiah chapter 28. The contact with God. The contact with these other worldly beings, extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them. But the word, verse 13, are you there? The word of the Lord, which is E.T., was unto them precept upon precept upon precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, here a little, there a little, that they might go, fall backward, be broken, snared, and taken. That's what you got. And who said it? I didn't make that up. Exactly what happened to this world, exactly what happened to life in this world, it was given to you. Oh, we'll have a Bible study Wednesday night. Noah got swallowed by a fish. Isn't this great? The fish puked and an evangelist came out. Oh, hallelujah. Let's sing a hymn of praise to God. Jesus. And you'll wonder why we're all nuts. You want to teach this to your kids. You're going to Sunday school, Gerard. You're going to hear about the two people with no pants on, and a snake came and told them, you don't have any pants on, Adam. Oh, my God, let me get some fig leaves. And this is what you're doing, kids. But we never dared question. We don't question these things. God took two of every kind of animal in a boat. Two of every kind of animal in a boat. Nobody even stopped to think, who's cleaning the mess? He's there for 40 days. 40 days, 40 years, and whatever the heck, he's on this boat, and these elephants and everything, and rhinoceroses, and they're all going to the bathroom, and there's no windows in this thing. Give me a break. But nobody stops to answer the question. In fact, it's so stupid, we're still looking for this ark. And today, you learned what the ark is. And it's just common sense. It's time to grow up, isn't it? It's time for us to mature. Oh. So they told you not. And what Jesus said in Matthew 6:6 is when you make contact, enter the place. Let's look at that for just a minute, page 781. Matthew chapter 6. You know, and you know what's a good part about this? You know, nobody belongs, there's no members in this church, so I mean, you're not going to get in any trouble. You're not. Where you have to join something and do what the leader says, that's a cult. And I don't want any part of it. I want you doing all I'm doing is putting stuff in your head. Think about it. You're mature enough. You can say this guy's either whacked out nuts but if I give you the Stedman's Medical Dictionary and all of these things and stuff I'm going to give you today and stuff I'm going to show you today, then think about it. Think about it. As who's trying to communicate with you? Do you think you were put on this speck of dust in the middle or in the universe to make a torture chamber for animals and children and women and beat up and drop bombs on people? Hardly. In Matthew chapter 6 and verse 6, Jesus, in the words given to him, says, when you pray, in other words, when you make contact, enter into that place, enter into the closet, it's called, that's that place where everything you have is stored, that's your mind, and shut the door, and that means shut down everything to the outside, communicate through the mind in secret, and what their Father sees you in secret will reward you. See? And so this is then practicing, you're moving, you're going to touch that which is the single eye, the pineal gland, face to face. If your eye be single, your body will fill with light, say. And so we understand all of these things. And look what you've just come through. You've just come through Passover, didn't you? And Easter. And all of this stuff. And how many even stop to think that the reason that the lamb has to be sacrificed is because Aries must be consumed by the sun in order for there to be spring. That's the Passover. That's why the lamb gets killed. It's allegorical. It's simply a sign that why is this guy crucified? Because on December the 21st, the same sun goes through a constellation called the Southern Cross, and it must be crucified so it can rise up to the lamb. The whole thing is astronomical. It's all talking about the universe. And all these people were trying to do was give you so that you could find it, that you could understand, that you could start to harmonize with this wonder that we live in called the universe. Instead of it, what have we done? What have we done? We outdid ourselves. We even got to the point where the very dolphins, that higher group of intelligence that we have even abused and put into cages, even the dolphins committed suicide as an expression to us to say, this is disgusting what you're doing. Disgusting. We got a letter from this guy. I don't think I should say this. Maybe I better not say this because it's a politician. Bad the heck with it. What's his name? Saxton. We wrote to him because he wants to vote for going back to the old netting ways of tuna where the dolphins get killed. And he sends back this computerized letter. Oh, nothing's going to happen. Yeah, well, I was going to send him back a computerized letter. Yes, something's going to happen. You're not going to get reelected. That's what's going to happen. So then you go through that 7 months from December up to May or whatever, and even we try to make contact. See, what he was doing, he hooked up that electric cord. The solar plexus is the place of the electricity, which is in the lower part of the body. It runs up through 7 chakras, which are 7 nerve centers or resistors in your spine. It impacts in the pineal gland and throws open the right hemisphere of the brain. You know, you've heard of like Buddhists and people and that meditate going, Om, Om. You've heard of that, and the energy comes up. Well, let me show you something. This is electrical energy. The 7 chakras are 7 resistors, and the international measurement of electrical resistance is Om. I mean, the people aren't just saying stuff because they want to be freaky and spiritual. This is all true. All we have to do is understand it. See, and when I tell you about this, the electrical energy comes up to the single eye of the pineal gland through the spine and energizes the right hemisphere of the brain. Look at page 1005 in your Bible. Page 1005 in your Bible. Revelation chapter 5 and verse 1. You there? Okay. And I saw in the right hand, which is the right hemisphere of the brain, of him that sat on the throne, which is the higher mind, a book, which is the book of life, written within. Within what? Within you. And where? On your backside. Your spine. Sealed with 7 seals. You're not reading this in the Hindu Bhagavad Gita. It's the Bible. But how come nobody ever showed this to you all the years you've been going to church? You know what? They haven't a clue.
They haven't a clue. And the way that energy comes up through your spine, hits the pineal, and opens the right hemisphere of the brain is exactly the way the sun comes up from December to April, hits Aries, moves in the northern hemisphere to the right side, and summer comes to the world. Or summer comes to the northern hemisphere. It's exactly right. That's why it happens. That's why you meditate. You meditate to duplicate the energy of the sun. That's why the Jesus is crucified, sits in the tomb, and then rises within you, sits at the right hand of the Father, means sitting at the right hemisphere of the brain. So we now, see, we don't have to imagine anymore. Now we can make contact. So what do we have to understand here about making contact? We have to, first, is the power turned on? Can you give yourself, can you give the time? Can you take the time? This thing doesn't cost any money. You don't have to read any books. You don't have to study any courses. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Do you think before a goose up in Canada can fly to Acapulco, it has to go through a course in miracles? Obviously not, and I'm not knocking that. But there is nothing to read. All it has to do is goose. That's it. It goes around and it says, here I am in Alaska and it's getting cold. What am I going to do? I'm going to freeze. But suddenly something in the goose is flipped on automatically. Beep. Whoa. Let's go, Murgatroyd. And they all fly, and a whole bunch of them are out of that place. They heard the goose say, I'm out of here, when they all took off, and they all fly. And then do they know where they're going? Do these gooses know where they're going? They don't know where they're going. Have no idea where they're going. But they fly, because something inside of them is saying, I'll direct you. You just fly. You don't have to study. You don't have to have a map. You don't have to know anything. You just fly. And here they're up in the cold in Alaska, and the head goose all of a sudden hears, as only a head goose can hear, La cucaracha, la cucaracha. What is this? I don't know. Let's land and see. I'm in Acapulco. How did I get here? I don't know. This is what you're missing. Be studying and Bible studies and all of this stuff. You're missing the Acapulco of your, what would we say? Brain, mind, because you won't just fly when you're told to fly. So you got to make sure the power is connected, and that is by energizing that pineal gland. And be familiar with the control room sitting inside of yourself. And they're basics, see. So you don't know how to make adjustments and computer chips and all that, but as you sit in the control room, as you sit in this meditation, if you'll just discipline yourself to, and you know what about your kids? Don't you think your kids deserve the benefit of this? Do you know what you're trusting them to? You are saying, well, we're not going to have them into meditation. We won't take them to meditation, but we're going to trust them to that outside school. We're going to trust them to all of these places, the government, politicians. Oh, there they are. And look at the world. You've got more drug outreach centers in this country than you've got AMPs because of the destruction. It's time to trust them in the same wonder that shows a dog how to give birth, the same wonder that shows a goose how to go from Canada to Acapulco, the same wonder that brings back a robin from wherever he is to your backyard every year. That same wonder wants to take you to the place of safety too, and your children as well. But it requires you. It requires you. You just have to be still and turn on your amplifier. And then we'll raise the sound of the extraterrestrials by overwhelming the sound of your own thoughts. It says in Exodus 14, don't be afraid, be still, and you'll be lifted out of the trouble that surrounds you. It says in Isaiah 8:17, I will wait upon this Lord. I will wait upon these beings of light that we have called God. I will wait upon them until they come, and I will make contact with them. But you must know. You must understand how this works. You must realize that this is science. And you must look to these extraterrestrials or this power, or call it God, whatever you want, for signs of importance. And let's see when we talked about earlier in the program. I mean, I don't know what else I could tell you. Look, I need to give out some stuff. But I don't want you to give it out right this second. I'll tell you when, and when you give it out, I want you to give it out upside down. And I want nobody to cheat. No cheating. Don't you? I know what you're going to do. Okay. Now look, come on with me, will you? Do this with me, because I'm going to show you something. I'll show you something. How many of you got socks on? Knock your socks off. I mean, I don't know what else you can do, but have things that say, here for God's sake. Hey, well, I've taught you about Pegasus, the second coming of Jesus Christ. You don't have to. You can go out in your backyard with a pair of binoculars and see it. How many of you ever gone out in your backyard with a pair of binoculars to see it? We have 3 people that are choked up about the second coming of Jesus. See, you know, here the first time the guy comes, you kill him. The second time he shows up, you don't even look. So he's out there talking to his old man saying, I don't think so. I don't think they're really into this, you know, Dad. I'm not, go back, son, the second coming. No way. No way. The last time they had nails, now they got howitzers and smart bombs. There's no way I'm going down. All right. Okay. Now, I told you about the outer court, the curtain, which is the web. And I told you about the inner place, which is, okay? Now remember, I showed you, and for those of you who aren't here, Joan has the stuff. I showed you the Stedman's Medical Dictionary. You have the brain dura mater. You have arachnoid, which is the web. And you have pia mater, which is the holy place. Now this is a significant thing. In other words, look, come with me. Go to page 70 in the Bible, all right? Exodus chapter 26, page 70 in the Bible. And in Exodus chapter 26, verse 33, look with me, okay? And you shall hang up the veil. Now that's the curtain in the center, that you may bring in the veil in the ark, and the veil shall divide the holy place and the most holy. That's a short one-line description. You can find other descriptions of it. But the holy place would be the dura mater, the outer court. The most holy would be the pia mater. Pia mater means tender mother. And you hang up the veil between the two. And your brain has a dura mater. It has an arachnoid, which is a web. And it has a pia mater. Okay? Now, when Jesus is crucified in that story and all this business, the curtain is torn down. That means that there is no longer a web to separate you from the Holy Mother, which is that innermost part of your brain. In other words, can you understand this? You are standing outside, and the center is this web, which is preventing you from reaching the Holy Mother, which is Isis, the Queen, Mary, whatever you want to call her. And when that web goes, Holy Mother is waiting to take you back into her arms. That's your true mom, waiting for you, inside of you. That's what the secret of all of this is. Now, how could this be conveyed about this web? Say, what is the most fantastic mode of communication all over the world in 1996 on the planet Earth? It's called the World Wide Web. And Jesus comes back as the sun star in Pegasus, and you can see it with binoculars. And his name as the sun star, Jesus, in Greek has a numerical value of 888. And what is the new long-distance number that is all over the world, that without this sign you cannot dial long distance? The number is 888. Someday somebody's going to stand there with a white suit on and a helmet and lift his goggles and say, didn't you get the thing about the 888 and the web and all that stuff? What the hell, what you do? Did you listen to anything? If you turn off the damn television for a while and listen. Okay, so here then you have this thing, which is the most important thing inside of you, which is the curtain, which is the web. Right? I'm going to hand these out, and I want you to hold them downward. I don't want you to look at them, please, because we want to share them together. Okay? I have a couple over here. Don't hold them down so they can't see them.
Yes, Bill.
Now, what I'm going to show you, if you'll take them, please just as quickly as you can, get them out, and don't look at them. Okay? When we see you peeking, don't look at them. What we're going to look at is something that I think is absolutely amazing. And I think that you have an obligation then to consider this and say, just go ahead and just fast as you can till we can get them.
We can see yours.
Okay? All right. And for those of you who are watching, if you want one of these, send a postage, yes, self-addressed stamped envelope, and maybe an extra stamp. And all right. What did we look at? Did you look at, now don't look with me. You looked at Exodus 26:33, and you saw about the curtain, and then I have previously given to you about arachnoid the web. Right? I don't want you to turn this over, but what you're going to see on the other side of this page is what they call the mother of all crop circles. It is in the mystical land of Merlin and King Arthur, the region of the Celts, the Druids, near Stonehenge, and around the second Uranus-Saturn conjunction, this crop circle was created by extraterrestrials around Barbury Castle near Silbury Hill in southern England. Turn it over and take a look at it.
Everybody got one, Bill.
Yeah.
Ask if everybody got one.
Everybody got one? Do you see the web? Why is it there? Will any of you say, why is it there? Who is trying to tell you? Why was this made in the Bible a pattern of something? What is it a pattern of? It is consciousness. They are in contact with you, telling you in a most magnificent way, folks, it's in your head, the web. And I'm telling you, I'm standing up here telling you this stuff, and for one reason only. Not that you join with anybody, not that you join any group. I don't want you to join any group. That you in your individual personal privacy find within, understand how your mind and your brain works, understand how you make contact with this wonder that is called God, E.T., whatever you want to call it, and then you look at this and say, God, look at this. Why is there a web? Why is there a web? Why is there a World Wide Web? Who is trying to tell us something? Did you ever have somebody tell you, do you think somebody's trying to tell us something? Why is it 888 is the number? Why not 896 or 123? Why is it 888? Is somebody trying to tell us? Why have the astronomers found this second coming of the sun star? Why is all of this stuff happening? And is anybody paying attention? Is anybody listening? Is anybody looking? And you got these people in churches warning you of the wrath and the bombs and all of this stuff. It's completely blasphemous against God. God never tortured anybody to death. God never put anybody on a cross. God never killed anybody. God is not coming with bombs. God is coming with flowers and love and pussycats and wonders and embracement to bring it all back together and to restore and bring back to some sensibility that which we have destroyed. And that's the beautiful part. See? It says in the Bible, here is wisdom. No man might buy or sell lest he has the number of the beast. But I'll give you new wisdom. Here is new wisdom. No man might call long distance without the number of the Christ. And his number is 888. Okay? That's good. If you want it to be a coincidence, let it be. But remember when Elijah was going to be taken up in that spaceship in 2 Kings? And the guy with him said, hey, Eli, I want to have the kind of power you got. You know what he said? When I take off, if you can see me, you'll have it. If you can't, you won't. Now, what I will do is get you to the front door. What I'm going to do right this minute is get you to the front door. And what I would ask you to do is not share this with anybody, because treat it like it should be. It's not for groups. It's not for teachings or whatever. You have an opportunity. People that are not here, I'm not no one. I'll do this again. That's the way it is. And it's because I follow what I'm told to do. If you are not into this, if you really are not sure about this, you haven't studied this, you don't really know whether you want to do this or not, then don't do it. I don't want you to do it. Let me tell you why. And this will sound a little spooky to you, but anyhow, things that you're not aware of do sound spooky sometimes. If you take this, and as you get to the front door, and it will look you through the front door, 2 people will come, and at that point you have to tell them something, and you have to know the right thing to tell them. Okay, so where are you getting that stuff from? Okay, when I left here last week, I said, you know, now is the time. Now tell me, where do I find what you promised me? Because I got all these people coming. You know, it's like inviting everybody to a party and you forget to order the ziti or whatever they have with those things. And then I was given and I found. I don't know how many of you ever heard of the Coptic. Coptic were mystic Christians of ancient Egypt. They were Gnostics, and a Gnostic is one who says salvation does not come from faith, salvation comes from knowledge. You have to understand. It's just like if I told Al, or I asked you to go in and say play guitar and you didn't understand how to work that equipment, you couldn't do it. Okay? Now, when you understand and you have an opening towards this knowledge, I was taken to one of the ancient books of Coptic Egypt called the Book of Eo, the Book of Jesus. In this book, Jesus provides you, as one who will be willing to discipline yourself to him, with 3 things to get you through the front door. And then we'll go later if you're interested. A symbol that you have to use in your meditation, a name that is given to you that no man outside of this room knows the meaning of, and a number. And I've placed these on cards and in envelopes. When you go into the meditation, I would ask just those who are now ready to come and take one from me. For those who say, well, I'm not too sure about this, don't worry about it now. There'll be other times later. Let me show you. This is what the seal looks like. Okay. And when you have that card, what you will do is you will focus on that seal and you will concentrate on it until your eyes almost start to burn, until it beds itself in your consciousness. Basically, this is a quantary. You have that with a superimposed like that. And what that is this is the neutral here. And I don't know if you can, I'm sorry. This is the neutral here, and this is the spiritual here. Okay? Now, when you introduce that to it, you impact the neutral with a dynamic activity. So this is dynamic action. And so that's why that's very important. Second thing that's important are the circles, which are the never-ending. And what is, I think, probably the most important is the octagon. The octagon is the 8 points. And what's so important about this is the square, which is the fourfold human nature, the circle, which is the unending. And then, which is interesting to you, what is so important about 8 is you'll be able to understand it as you go into your meditation and you see it why it's concentrating. But I don't know how many of you have ever seen a doctor's, the caduceus. Okay. In addition to that, I'm going to show you something probably even more than that, but you want to run these out as quick as you can because we're really keeping everybody. Whoops. If you'll look at that real quick, okay. What I'm trying to share with you is that these things aren't done for no reason. Is the air conditioner on? Okay. You have that? Got that? Okay. What I want you to do, I want you to hold that in your hand like this. Got it? All right. If you hold that in your hand the way I've got it. Now you got a Bible with you? Do you have a Bible with you? Would you please open it to page 296? And then page 296 talks about the construction of the temple. And the construction of the temple actually is your brain. It talks about the energy that rises up and goes to the right side. All right. 1 Kings chapter 6. And I'll show you something which is I think will be quite obvious to you. If you look at 1 Kings chapter 6, verse 8, it talks about the construction of the temple. The door for the middle chamber, that's the Holy of Holies, that's Pia Mater, was in the right side of the house, and they went up with winding stairs. Will you look at that symbol of DNA in your hand? You see that? That DNA is the winding stairs that's discussed in that scripture. I don't know if you've ever seen a better picture of a winding staircase than the DNA which you're looking at there. Okay? So basically, that's the importance of the number 8. And it is part of the DNA, part of the octagon, part of the 8 nature, and a lot of other things that, I'll get to you about. Okay, now if you would just for a moment put that down, and when I'm done here, you can come up, Albert, in particular, you would want to see this. I don't know how I find this stuff, but anyhow, I do. This is the word that you will use. This is your password, okay? This is your first password, which will get you through the front door. There'll be another one when the 2 comes, and after you give the second one to the 2 who will be standing there, they will move over to the left. Don't ask me. Just, I said it, all right? Okay, now, when I saw this word first, my initial carnal mind said, oh, here we go, another mantra. We need this, like we need another hole in our head. So I sat down and I fired up the computer and I looked at Grolier's, and I have it here for you, and I will be glad for you to come after we're finished here and look at this. Azozeo, okay? Azo. Azo is a compound of 2 organic molecules, 2 nitrogen atoms. Aromatic azo compound is a light-absorbing group. Okay? Azo means light-absorbing. Jesus said, if your eye be single, your body will fill with light. Right? So when you say this word, it's like anything else. If you go apply for a job and they say, do you know how to do this job? And you don't know what to say. When you go and you take this with you and you say this word, I want you to know what's going on here, because this is only open to people who would know. The word zeo, which is the second part of the thing that Jesus gave this word, okay? Zeo comes from, or the word zeolite is a molecular sieve property. It is a filtering crystal. Okay? So basically what you have here is a word that you will use in entering, within yourself and entering this front door, which tells you of the fact that what will be coming into you will be light. You will be absorbing light that is filtered by crystal. A zeolite is also used for getting scum out of water and all that kind of business. Now, that word sieve, which I gave you from Grolier's, is part of the scientific part has an interesting, in the Egyptian system of hieroglyphics, they have a symbol for this. It is a symbol of the sieve. It means selecting particle forces needed to reach a required synthesis. To work carried out upon oneself, know thyself. To sieve is to purify and to perfect, to garner the useful and discard the useless. So you will have opportunity, and then if you get these and you decide, well, now wait a minute, I forget what he said, what does this mean? You just call me on the telephone and we'll go over it with you if you're using this. So you have what? You have the symbol to concentrate on, which you don't know what that is now, but I'll give it to you. You have Azio, which is the word, and not only are you to use that in your meditation, and you only use it once. You don't repeat it twice. What happened to Moses? When God told Moses, he said, Moses, I want you to knock on this rock and water will come out. That's talking about the pineal gland of the brain. What did Moses do? Moses went like this. And he screwed himself up big time. God said, I didn't tell you to add anything of your own. I said knock. I didn't say knock twice. And he wasn't able to see the promised land. Why? You'll never see the promised land. You'll never make contact if you add anything of your own. And I don't care what books you're studying. I don't care what teachers you have. I don't care where you cannot add anything. You take it within yourself. I have given you instructions that are taken from the Coptic Gospels of ancient Egypt that come from Jesus. He said, that's the word, that's the symbol, and I'll give you the number. And if you think a number's not important, try to call me on the phone without using a number. I don't need a number. I'll call them up. Go ahead. Al, pick up the phone. But don't use a number. I want you to get somebody. You can't get anybody without using a number. Here's your number. You don't have to write it down. And I'll tell you something, and I haven't reached the point yet, but I am waiting for one of you, and I know that I get some pretty good people in here who are pretty scientifically minded to find out that this is some kind of a scientific equation somewhere along the line. Fourfold nature, that's fine. The five senses, that's fine. The altar is 5 and all of this kind of business. The sacrifice is fine. The 5th month is May and so forth when the Passover takes place. But I honestly believe whether it be 4.555 or 45.55 or 455.5, I wait. But that's the number. And what Jesus said to do was focus yourself on the sign, say the name once, and hold the number in your hand. Now you say, well, I'm not going to go do all that. Well, nobody said you had to. The point is, do you want to? The point is, are you at a point in your what in God's name is this going to, how is this going to hurt you? Let me ask you this. How is it, what did Jesus say? I will give you a new name that no man knows. I will give you a white stone. I will give you a number. But now when you get to the point of somebody giving it to you, and I can see you looking at me, this is pretty freaky stuff. What is this guy doing? But say, do you want to or not? You know what I got in the most trouble? I really got people freaked out more than anything. When I first started doing this stuff, I told them God wasn't an American. What? God bless America, don't tell me that. Then they got all of these English people running around Jerusalem, Peter, Paul, and Mary, and Timothy, and Paul. What are all these guys doing in Palestine? Find me somebody named Mary in Palestine. So now you're into something different, aren't you? You want to get in touch with people? You want answers to your prayers, don't you? Do you know you're going to have to get it from somebody that's 6,000 years advanced beyond you in intellectualism and understanding? And you want to talk to these people? And you want to go up to them and say, now I lay me down to sleep. I lay the Lord my soul to keep. If I awake before I die, God bless Mommy. Let me have the new car. I'll never do it again. Oh, Jesus. Or do you want to? Do you want to do it right? Okay. Okay. We're going to go into the meditation right now. And what I am asking you to do, all right, is if you want to do this, then you come and I'll give you one of these cards. All right? If you don't want to get involved in this, no problem. There is no problem. If you're not going to discipline yourself to your meditation and to working on this, don't come. And I would ask you also not to repeat this stuff. to people. Because these are for people who are willing to disciple themselves to Jesus. In other words, that which we know as Jesus is the universal cosmic entity. Call it ET, call it whatever. But it has given you specific instructions about making contact. Do you want to? And then once you make this contact, you'll come to me and say, hey, these two guys showed up. What do I say? And then I'll tell you. Okay? Isn't it amazing how freaky this gets when you take it out of religion? Because religion, you can't get in any trouble. Who's going to fall asleep in it? You give money, you sing Amazing Grace, get the hell out. And who cares? Really, who cares? Nothing ever happens. You don't believe any of this stuff. Fish swallowing people, talking snakes and everything. You don't believe any of it anyhow, so what the heck's the difference? But you do it for the kids' sake because you want them to grow up and be maniacs like us. I mean, kids got to have a psychiatrist just like you have, so let's put them through the same thing. Now all of a sudden, you're being introduced to those who are coming. Closer than your breath. Sitting right in the chair next to you. I'm sure sitting right in the chair next to you. And if you could see who's sitting in the chair next to you, you'd get up and you'd run out the door. But are you willing? This is real. It's real now. So here we go. We'll do the meditation. I have the card. I'll give them to you. You use them in your meditation. And as I explained to you, this is what you do. You take the symbol. You stare at the symbol. You do not blink your eyes. Your eyes burn. It impregnates itself. That is the symbol given by Jesus. And I want you to go into your mind knowing that is the symbol given by Jesus.
Is that going to be on the card you're giving out now?
Yes. After you take that, you close your eyes. You have that symbol burned into your mind. You're saying Azozio. Once. He didn't ask you to say it twice. He said specifically once.
Each time you meditate?
Yeah. You hold it in your hand and say 4555. And I'll give you some information about that. If the guy shows up, say, we know what Azozio means and we're pretty sure about the symbol. We're not quite clear on the 4555. But it doesn't make any difference. It knows that you're working in the right direction. In other words, all this means is you've graduated. You've come out of Sunday school. You've come out of religion. See? You're seeing the changes in the world. You're seeing the changes in the universe. You're seeing the changes in the cosmos. You've seen what I've showed you in the stars about Pegasus. And now you're ready to take a step. And it's like anything else. If you get there and you've got the symbol and you've got Azozio and 4555, it's just like as if you went and somebody, if you want to call it an angel, is going to say, Charlie, there's a lady down there and she's got the password. Let her in. Where'd you get it from? Well, the nut and fork and River's going around shooting his mouth off, telling everybody. Okay. All right? Okay. So let us, we'll go in. Let me say goodbye to you. And how can I, well, we'll figure this out. You call me or, right. This is it. I'm not doing this again until I'm told to do it again. And I don't want you going to people who are not here and telling them about this. I don't want you telling anybody about this. This is for you personally. All right? I don't want to hear works, doesn't work. I don't want to hear anything. This is for you to use personally. It is only for one thing, for your growth, for your contact with the universe, with God, if you would, for your children, for your family, and to protect you from this horde that is out there that you call your society. This destruction that is out there, which has been so brutal to everything that is of God and of life and of good. Okay? That's it. When I am instructed to do it beyond today, then we'll do it again. But I have not been so instructed. And this is very scary to me because I know how significant this is. And I know how, when you give somebody a password and so forth, and Jesus gave it to his disciples. So you have to decide if you're one. If you say, well, yeah, I'm a Jesus. Jesus being a Jesus disciple doesn't mean you put something on your bumper sticker that says, honk if you like Jesus and all that. It means, do you practice the single eye? Do you cast your energy to the right side? Do you seek within yourself for the power? That's what he said to do. Do you seek first within yourself for the power? Do you separate from the thoughts of the mind? These are all the things that he said to do. Do you touch the pineal gland? If you do, then you're a disciple. Then he would want you to have this because then you're ready. And then if you don't, once again, if you lose track of what these things mean, I'll show them to you in Grolier's. I will make a copy for you of Grolier's breaking down to that word Azozio so you know exactly what they mean. If you want that, you tell Joan, I'll make copies for you. I just didn't